then boom, bingo, bango, 4 o'clock. You got me for one whole solid hour, and I'll intermix my, information with some tunes and some lighthearted ribbery, But basically, this show's about cannabis. It's about the benefits of cannabis. It's about how we're slipping if we ain't, jumped on the cannabis train. So I try to show why that's the case, and it's getting easier and stinking easier, that's for sure. But I don't know where you are, but it is gorgeous here. However, if you've got brain rain, right? You got brain rain. You got doubt clouds. That's not good. Call 1-800-233-4512. That's the mobile mental health crisis response. Get rid of that brain rain. However, sometimes life will get you in a pickle. And the New Life Center helps people who are homeless and hurting go from merely surviving to truly thriving. Their aim is to help people in need discover value and find hope. The New Life Center has evolved into a multifaceted emergency and crisis service center. To learn more about NLC, visit their website at www.fargonlc.org. or give them a call at 701-235-4453. They were in here actually over the noon hour, and apparently New Life Center is going to have Daryl Crackhead Strawberry on, which that's beautiful, and I'm glad he made it up here to Fargo. I don't know if he's ever been here before, but that's good to have him in here. And what better person to talk about being all the way down and then getting all the way up than Daryl Strawberry. Respect. Canna Talk ND with Wilson. Boy, oh boy, it's going to be fun. I've got a theory about how cannabis is going to be legalized even faster. And I've got a whole thing. We'll get into it at 4:20. After this musical break here, I feel like what's happening now, since I'm not pushing any measure, is I've got to talk about Measure 2, because that's the only thing that affects measures and constitutional amendments at that. So that's something I got my ear to the ground about, and I got my hackles up about it too, but we'll talk about it then. And but first, Eddie Van Halen is a sad thing. Everybody's playing the music, and I get that. Imitation is the best form of flaverty, they say. So my contribution is going to be the Bird and the Bee, Running with the Devil. Here we go. Man, Running with the Devil, the Bird and the Bee, covering Van Halen's Running with the Devil. Rest in peace. That's hitting a lot of people, And so my shout-outs to people that, appreciated the guitar maestro, no buttons on his shirt necessary kind of rock. I salute you. Canna Talk ND with Wilson. I give you a fresh bag of cannabis news every week, 4 o'clock. Thursday, 4:20, we get into the bulk and the meat. Canna Talk ND on YouTube is where you'll see this minus the music at a later date. RadioFreeFargo.org, you can listen to it there. You can go donate there. And ND for Freedom of Cannabis is a Facebook page. It's kind of just a big social greet there. So you come hang out there. Canna Head's going to do something on Sunday or not. I can't remember what he even said. But Canna Head, you want to check that out. He's got something new coming. Canna Talk ND, though, right now, it's what you're listening to. I'm here to change the law, not break the law, regarding cannabis. And call me the cannabis watchdog, if you will, similar to Protect ND with Ellie Shockley and this whole boo on Measure 2. Now, this time, because I always talk about it, I'm going to take a different tack a little bit, because since last week, I've heard two, one guy, Representative Luke Simons out there in Dickinson, Badland area. I grew up with him, I know his dad happens to listen to this. Shout out, Dad. Solid guy. You can trust him. That I know. We might have differing views because of, the religious kind of contraption, but I know it also, reflects the integrity of this guy. So when he says, I'm voting yes on Measure 2, well, I listen to it, because, again, we grew up together. I know his dad. So he's not going to, he may have that grass-fed, buttery tone, but deep down I know he's following the higher power, and he's not going to he's not going to delineate from that. So I listened to him, and basically what he said was, we don't want to make it easy for people to change the Constitution, to make a Constitution amendment. And it's the first time I've heard anybody say that martial law was goofy. And I never have understood it. I mean, I had David Thompson on here twice in reference to it, and I had no idea really what it is. But it's something that people feel like got through because there wasn't a more stringent vetting process, And so, again, then he mentions how, it shouldn't be hard to change the Constitution. They need 75% for them to make, a move. But again, we voted them in to make the moves. So I'm still not seeing, I'm not convinced for sure. Boo on Measure 2. Go and protect NDs, donate, support. Because at the end of the day, I know that when we run or somebody runs the constitutional amendment to legalize cannabis and to grow, that this is going to be a problem. Measure 2 will be a problem for that. Now, I don't know about this out-of-state money and all this other mumbo-jumbo, but I will say the guy, I would trust him, and I'm still going to vote stinking no on Measure 2. But, I mean, you don't do yourself any favors when you don't listen to both sides, And Rick Becker, he's a big stinking yes on Measure 2. Again, I was shocked that those two guys would do it. But then again, they are representatives. So, deep down, I'm having a hard time trusting because that's where we are right now. It's if we trusted all those people to do our wishes and votes say and polls say that they aren't, that we want cannabis legalized. We want freedom, the pursuit of happiness, blah, blah, blah. In fact, we have no status or no stats and no proof that there was even any problem with cannabis. It was politically and monetarily motivated. And you've got to look back and see that, yeah, we can be duped by representatives and people that we vote in good faith. So at the end of the day, those two dudes have got to be solid dudes. But why do they take the stance of the Constitution being, easy to manipulate? Because I stand for the Constitution, and we're people. We should have power too. Do we need 75% of the people? Figure that out. But I think if it's too easy for us to make change, I don't know what that has to do with the people we voted in. They should just change their tune. We tell them, hey, we've got to get this through. We can't do Measure 2 because we need to push, a constitutional amendment for cannabis. They would be like, yeah, you're right. Then they would be a no on Measure 2 too. So that's what kind of flips me out just a little bit, because, again, I grew up with him. He's a solid guy. I guarantee you he signs up for honesty, integrity, does the right thing. He goes to bed with very little of a conscience, I would imagine, after that grass-fed bison he fried in a pan. But anyway, so, again, I knew that there was going to be an opposing team of yeses to this Measure 2. I knew that. But I was expecting it to just be a bunch of junk like the Louser and Dick Deaver, which they don't make any sense. And so I don't trust them. But Rick Becker and this Representative Luke Simons, which again I grew up with, I'm not going to discredit their opinion right away because I know the place that it's coming from. And so it made some sense, but why wouldn't I care about the Constitution too? I don't want it flim-flammed and messed around with, And so I think the problem is we got the wrong people in there doing what we don't want them to do. So now the people are trying to do it. So there's the back and forth right now. We have to get the people in that we need to get in. It's going to do what we want because apparently that's not happening now. It's just not, and so now there's a fight where they're like, well, don't, you shouldn't push us around. You hired us in here to do what? Because if you're not doing what the people as a majority of polls says, well, then we have to go in and do it. So anyway, protect ND, boo on Measure 2. But again, read everything, but maybe not. Maybe not. All I know is I'm still voting no on Measure 2, but there's just a part of me that isn't as convinced outside of we need constitutional amendment to grow our own and to get cannabis for the benefit of everybody. They would argue that there's a way to do that as we get in at 420. We'll talk about it, that there's a way to do that. So we've got to talk with them. I don't love it. I'm a do-it-myself kind of guy. And I think that's where we're at. We've got to communicate. And he believes that too, like 75% of the House and and the Senate to get things changed. So there's that. Boo on Measure 2. Canna Talk ND with Wilson. At 420, we're going to cover the week. I got a weird angle I'm going to take at so I can encourage everybody that cannabis legalization is around the corner for North Dakota, and for the, the world, the fantastic U.S. of hey. So it's all good news. It's kind of an interesting thing. But anyway, all right. So this group of music, shout out to Mac Davis. He wrote, he penned a lot of the Elvis tunes. He did the Ghetto tune and the other tune. But the tune I'm going to play is A Little Less Conversation. Mac Davis, he died September 29th, I believe. He wrote all these songs, and apparently he's got a big legacy too. So shout out Mac Davis. And here comes Hard to Handle, Otis Redding, y'all. Oh, Weird Al, huh? He sure knows how to do put 2020 into perspective. And we had Mac Davis wrote A Little Less Conversation. We're going a little past the time, but we're going to jump right into it. Here we go. Canna Talk ND on the other side.
Yo, it's Wilson from Canna Talk ND. The super awesome show you're getting ready to listen to. I think you should go and subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'll wait. Okay, enjoy the show.
All righty. We made it. Here we are. Canna Talk ND with Wilson's every Thursday, 4 o'clock. 420, we cover the cannabis news directly. Like I say, I always give you a fresh bag of cannabis news every week. And every week, man, I always thought, well, we're going to run out of stuff. I'm going to have to make something up. There's never going to be a whole week, every week, that I can give you fresh, relevant cannabis news. But, man, for the last, and as we head into the legislative session, I would imagine I'll always have fresh cannabis news until it's legalized, and we're just cruising into it, So, first of all, here's kind of the thing I was thinking, and I'll set it up. I got articles. First of all, I'm going to read this. Filmmaker Kevin Smith, from Clerks and Dogma, pro-cannabis user. But when you live in L.A., right, it's legal. But when Kevin Smith goes home to New Jersey, it's not going to be, So when you shoot content in your own hometown and you shoot it like you're in Hollywood, you're breaking the law, But in your head, you're Kevin Smith. You're going to stop me, especially like these guys that are loaded. They're like, well, I just bought, I bought 3 houses. I went to that auto dealership. I bought 3 Maseratis, and my wife goes to the grocery store and spends $6,000 a day on organic whopper. You know what I mean? So it's like there's more to it than that, And so this attitude, I think, is going to lend itself to quicker. So here's what I mean. Well, let me read this. Filmmaker Kevin Smith isn't trying to convince New Jersey residents who should get their vote for president. He don't care about that, but he does want voters in his home state to support a marijuana legalization referendum that will appear on the ballot. So the cannabis culture icon, Jay and Silent Bob, blah, 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 blah. He says, only you can make the Garden State truly green. New Jersey. Here's another thing. There's, he's not the only one. Joey Diaz, bless his heart, one of my favorite dudes. He was also in L.A. doing his podcast, Church of What's Happening Now, 8 years. And they basically, there'd be times they'd be all hopped up on acid. They'd be eating weird mushrooms. And there just was you couldn't get in trouble for it because it was legal. But these guys are moving out of L.A. A lot of them are. And they're trying to act the same way as they did in L.A. in, like, say, New Jersey. Well, now, Joey, he didn't get to Jersey very long at all, and he's posting, a video out in the backyard smoking up a doobaroonie. And he gets all this flack. Hey, it's illegal there, He's like, well, hey, it's blue around my circle. Cannabis is legal inside the blue circle around me. And he's unapologetic. he came back on as a response to the emails and said something like, you know, H-E double beep beep doop doop boop boop, I'll do what I want. Well, it's that kind of attitude that I don't get to have. You know, like Dave Chappelle, and we'll get into that. If it was just black Dave, he wouldn't be able to get to do what he's doing in these states that, you know, punish people. So anyway, that's kind of what we're getting into. And then Joe Rogan, man, he's like $1 billion rolling into Austin, Texas. Now, Austin has decrim, you know, but still, you can't do what Rogan did on his podcast. I mean, Mike Tyson was on. I mean, he got Elon Musk to take a hit off the old Buffalo, you know, the old soldier. So it's like, okay, well, you know, in LA, that's fine to do. But now all these actors and comedians, and the good ones, the ones that I believe will make a difference, they're not going to take their status and ask for special treatment. Joey Diaz is going to start kicking money down to make sure that people in New Jersey, which are getting ready to vote in November, he's going to make sure people know to do it because now he's motivated. He needs to get it legal because he doesn't want to stop, and he isn't going to stop. But he's going to get a lot of flack. So he's got extra money. He'll just start pushing money to get change. Same thing with stinking Joe Rogan. He's a billionaire or something. And now in Austin, I mean, his podcasts are different. There's no blatant cannabis and, you know, there's just nothing. Now, it's not better or worse, but I guarantee you that he would like to offer a laid-back experience for the watcher and the participant. Whew. So, anyway, this is happening all over, you know, because people are moving. His, like, sidekick, he used to, like, you know, Joey Diaz, he used to just jam him full of edibles. And, I mean, he didn't know he was his tech guy. He didn't even know where he was half the time. Well, now he's in Milwaukee, acting like he's in L.A. But I tried to act like it was legal in Wilson World. And then I go to move my kid in South Dakota, spent 2 days in jail. I realized that they don't care. They need the money, and they didn't see anything. All they wanted was to get the, you know, $500 I ended up having to pay. But it's the way they treated me. Joey Coco Diaz gets pulled over in South Dakota, and that cop's seen him on podcasts. Is he going to treat him like he treated me when I got pulled, you know, when I got accosted by Demand in South Dakota? I would argue no, but I would always have argued no. But now I'm getting proof of that. And here's case in point. Chris Rock apparently spilled the beans on Ellen. This is from Marijuana Moment, Ben Adlin. It says, Dave Chappelle's marijuana and psychedelic parties don't concern local sheriff. Let me just read that again. Dave Chappelle's marijuana and psychedelic parties don't concern local sheriffs. Well, why not? Why? I mean, his cousin in Nebraska spent the last 20 hours before, you know, the Supreme Court to make sure they found a loophole to keep it from happening. Again, if this was Black Dave instead of Dave Chappelle, probably, I don't know, what would you say? Probably the best comedian. I mean, he's up there. In our time, you can put him up against all of them. Stinking Pryor, Kennison, all of them. And his reach is insane. He's loaded. And we'll get into that even further. But only Dave Chappelle could get a sheriff to say it doesn't concern them. And so that's happening all over. Like LA, all of them moved out. And they're all over kind of the, you know, all over the, in the States now. With their kind of, you know, I suppose small town people be like, well, them city slicker ways, you know, but it's just the way things are. And I encourage it because I know cannabis is a benefit. It's medicinal. It'll save lives. You don't have to trust me, but try it, you know. Well, not here, well, unless you get your medical card, but you know what I mean. We're here to change the law, not break the law. And that's what you need to do. Vote no on Measure 2. And then get out and vote your, like, Canna Heads, I guess, is going to come up with a thing that, you know, so you know who to vote for. And I need that, too. Because I'm going to vote for all the districts, you know, with that cannabis flexibility in mind. You know, if they ain't about it, I'm not, you know, they ain't getting my vote. You know, and I would encourage everybody to do that. But anyway, Comedian Chris Rock spilled the beans on behind-the-scenes festivities at Dave Chappelle's recent comedy shows. He told Ellen DeGeneres that the parties have included, quote, way more weed than anyone should ever have, as well as a lot of mushrooms. DeGeneres says mushrooms, like hallucinogenic mushrooms? She said in an interview that aired on Thursday. He goes, yeah, I was trying to be nice because your show's on in the daytime, and, inferring that it's illegal in a lot of places. But we do a lot of drugs, Rock said. Lucky for the comics, the local sheriff thinks they're only joking. See, now just think about that. Okay, so let's see if I can find, well, I will. But anyway, for the past several weeks, Chappelle's been hosting a series of socially distanced comedy shows at an outdoor pavilion in the small village of Yellow Springs, Ohio. Ohio is, I would say they're similar to, there's probably a decrim, but you're still going to jail. So here's what happens. A bunch of comedians fly in every weekend. They get COVID tested, and then they put on a show. It's just a bunch of us having fun being comics. But DeGeneres asked about the rumors of mushroom tea being served, and Rock confirmed that certain drugs were common at the events. Dave's got like a weed mushroom chef that prepares amazing meals with weed and mushrooms. He emphasized that no hard stuff such as cocaine was provided, but mushrooms and partying it up with edibles. And that's the thing. Edibles in funny states, when you take flour and you extract things into something, that's called manufacturing. It becomes a felony when you are manufacturing products. When you take it that it's just grown up out of the ground state and you turn it into a cookie with extractions and, and fancy stuff, that becomes a felony. I mean, you could make a firecracker, which is a college kind of made edible. You can make easy enough. As soon as you put peanut butter with that cannabis in between your cracker, boom, you become a stinking, whatever the word, a production guy, and becomes a felony. But anyway, let's keep going. To be clear, both marijuana and mushrooms are illegal in Ohio, although possession of up to 100 grams carries no jail time and a max penalty of 150. The limit is higher in the village of Yellow Springs, where it did decriminalize possession of up to 200 grams. The state Senate voted in July to double the statewide cannabis possession decrim limit to 200 grams, but the bill has not been enacted into law. Meanwhile, 4 additional cities will be voting on marijuana reform ballot. Now here we got the guy, Greene County Sheriff Gene Fisher. He doesn't seem to be too worried about what's going on at Chappelle's events. Fisher told local media outlet, because everybody knows. Because when you're a celebrity, you can't be having comedy shows where your comedians are jacked on the mushrooms, floating around with like weird things painted on their heads. They're all like jelly. You're not going to go home and say that? You're not going to tell somebody who in turn tells somebody who tells this media outlet, WHIO, because it's news. Nothing going on in stinking Iron Springs, stinking Ohio. Until Dave Chappelle moved in. He's got Chris Rock hanging out. This is crazy. Everybody would like to get a glimpse of Chris Rock. And Dave Chappelle, these guys are iconic. They could, with the money, they could change Iron Springs, Ohio, They literally could buy stinking Sheriff Green's job and kick him down the road. So to me, that feels like they don't want to cause any problems. They don't want to cause any problems with this Dave Chappelle money thing. People are coming in, they're spending money. It's just, it goes on and on as to why a cop is doesn't seem too worried. But I guarantee you, if Black Chappelle was doing something in Moorhead, Minnesota, and he was jacking people up with mushroom tea and cannabis, and you were coming in for a comedy show, our Gene Fisher, the Moorhead Gene Fisher, would be extremely worried about what's going on at Black Dave's event. But if you're David Chappelle, though, you start getting these kind of responses. Same thing with Joey Diaz. He's like, come on, cops, if you ain't got, if you got nothing better to do than come and bust me, be prepared to get my lawyers. I'm going to call my lawyers. I'm going to throw all this money I made, being funny at you. Now, all of a sudden, things are different. So what I'm seeing is a turn of who's got the money these days. Cannabis growers, cannabis people like Dr. Green Thumb, all these big cats. They're friends with all these comedians who are very cannabis friendly, and they make some of the best podcasts. I listen to them. But there's a momentum switching. The way we think about cannabis Can't just be the way we think about cannabis. But if people you look up to, that you trust, and in the end you're like, you have like that whatever, that fanboy vibe. Well, Gene Fisher loves listening to Chris Rock at home after a couple old Milwaukees. He's not going to go out there and throw him into cuffs and become the guy that cuffed Chris Rock. But if it was Bob Rock, well, actually I think Bob Rock's pretty famous, but if you were Greg Rock, that's got a kind of nice ring to it. If you're Rock Wilson, this isn't happening for you. These people are getting persecuted. But with these guys now becoming more visible and vocal, it's good, because it's going to literally make busting people just seem bad. And they're going to make it seem that way. And they got the money to make people change their minds. All right, so attendees have reported the smell of marijuana at the events. Fisher added, his department has not received any drug-related complaints about the shows. But I guarantee you, if this was Moorhead, Minnesota, and his name was Black Dave, there would be complaints about the shows, and that's just the truth. Even if you're just I'm using Black Dave as an example, but even White Dave is not going to be able to do what these guys are doing to get a sheriff to go, Chris Rock's a comedian, he says. Chris Rock is probably looking for jokes, the sheriff said. People have been making jokes about marijuana and drugs for years. Hopefully that's what he's talking about, says the sheriff. With his shoulder, hopefully that's what he's talking about. You're not going to go and try to find out, You chose to use Chris Rock being a comedian and jokes. But you know that that's happening. You know that this isn't a joke. But that's what they're going to use, so they don't have to go and bust this celebrity who's bringing in all this money to Johnson Springs, Ohio. So, so you can see where I'm kind of getting at here. This is good news, So LA, people are moving out of there because the rent's too high and everything's crazy. People are moving because what used to be like a daycare now is broke in, had the trike stolen, And so, but they're taking that cannabis is okay because it's legal. They're taking that and all their money and all their influence, and they're going to Golden Springs, Ohio. They're going to Ding Dong, the Witch is Dead, New Jersey. And they're spread out. Joe Rogan, he is going to do so much for the legalization movement because he's got the money. And so he's going to do that. I guarantee you he's going to do that. So that's good news about that. And it's interesting to me that when there's money and celebrity, you get these guys coming up with this. He doesn't seem too worried about what's going on. He tells the media outlet that he thought Rock's comments were probably meant in jest. And so you just scuff it off that there's felonies going on, and who knows what else. But now, if you're in Nebraska, and you're in funny states, and you're just a regular person, these things don't apply. But hypocritically, Gene Fisher now, let's say regular people are joking and doing mushrooms. He can't go and bust them because he's now quoted saying that, so somebody's just got to create the similar scenario. And then you get trapped, the officer, into his quote. And he can't bust anybody because he said that, he used this. I say, hey, you can't bust me. I'm a joke teller. Whatever. So that's really interesting. And I do want to say New Jersey, they're going to vote. Vermont, let's see here. We're going to read this. Vermont governor allows marijuana sales legalization bill to take effect without his signature. The governor of Vermont announced on Wednesday that he'll allow a bill to legalize sales in the state. He also signed separate legislation to automatically expunge blah, blah, blah. So that's good. Shout out Vermont. But anyway, Governor Phil Scott's decision not to veto the new cannabis commercialization bill, a tax and regulate system, will finally be implemented. So that must have been what kept them, was they didn't have the tax. The funnest part of this whole cannabis thing, they didn't know how to take the money from me, and which is kind of ironic because you would think how to take money from me would be something they could come up with pretty quick. More like how much do you take from me needed some time, But anyway, so Vermont, yay. And then I wanted to say Maine is finally, after 4 years, Maine is finally, bingo bango, is finally going to get it. So that's up on the northern East Coast. So that's good stuff. That's good news. But anyway, let me read this. A congresswoman said she'd break the law to get medical marijuana if her daughter needed it. A congresswoman said she'd be inclined to seek out medical, and this is Representative Elaine Luria from Virginia, is shown meeting with a mother whose child suffered from a rare form of brain cancer and benefited from cannabis before passing away earlier this year. They both discussed how marijuana Schedule I status inhibits research and limits patients' access. So that's the thing that's good. The people were talking about it. I mean, a congresswoman, I would argue, probably wouldn't have said that 10 years ago because she's expecting to get props, I would hope, and that she's running with this because everybody agrees with it. And so if she's willing to do it, I would imagine we're going to see it happening all over. Especially, like I said, Joe Rogan, he got Elon Musk to hit a joint. Well, that's kind of crazy. Elon Musk is rich. But then you've got this congresswoman who's sticking up for the medical aspect. And you say stuff like children passed away earlier this year. That's got more meat to it. And then the celebrities kind of status, they can get behind it. They can throw money. And now you're really cooking. So that's all good stuff. I just wanted to mention that. But yeah, stinking Dave Chappelle. He mushroom tea and cannabis parties, and the sheriff probably just thinks it's jokes. But that's just crazy to me. I have a hard time. I don't know. Maybe. But anyway, what we need to do is vote no on Measure 2. Educate yourself on the legislators and people that we can vote in or out. That's gonna mean a lot. We need to kind of do that. You know, we've got to do that because we need more control. We're not rich. We're not Dave Chappelle. We don't have this, how can we make him happy? So the people that we're doing that for don't have us in mind. They're using it to get their own stuff. And that's wrong. We need people to think about us and help us get where we want to be, you know, and celebrities have always done that, but usually just to get themselves out of trouble. You know, I'm a celebrity, don't make me pay this fine. But they're moving into these states that are illegal with legal mentality, with a bunch of money, and it's really going to push the ball rolling. That's all I'm saying. All we need is like a couple Josh Duhamels to pull in here and get us a Block 10 downtown Fargo and say, but we need to get more dispensaries and we need to be more relaxed on cannabis. I'll come in here and build a Block 10 skyscraper that looks better than Block 9. All you have to do is just get some legislators that will relax the cannabis measure and get it in quick, and I'll buy that building for $500 million and build something for taxes and all the fat cats want to see. And that's what I think is going to happen. Dave Chappelle will just be like, well, who do I got to pay to get you to stop harassing me? You know, and that's all it'll take. They start kicking out how many millions? And they'll do it because they're not bad people. Dave Chappelle ain't a bad guy. He's not going to use it just for himself. He's going to kick down a little trickly for us. And that's what we haven't been seeing with like politicians. They haven't been doing that. It's almost like they've been hoarding their own stuff, their own love. So now we've got all these comedians and good people that are very vocal and outspoken about cannabis and cannabis legalization that used to live in one little area are now in states all over the United States. Ohio, stinking New Jersey, Texas, Wisconsin even. You know, so that's really good news. And so I just want to say that wraps up another Canna Talk ND with Wilson every Thursday, 420 to 445. This hour of programming on KRFF 95.9 LPFM is being underwritten by Northland Vapor Company and Alpine Hemp. Northland Vapor offers e-liquids that are quality, not costly. Northland Vapor also carries a variety of CBD products from Alpine Hemp, ranging from capsules, tinctures, e-liquids, candies, gummies, coffees, teas, topicals, and CBD flour. Northland Vapor Company has locations in Moorhead, South Fargo, and Bemidji, or visit them on the web at www.northlandvapor.com and www.alpinehemp.com. Oh, wow, we've made it. And here comes a song at you. Renegades of Funk.
No matter.
Oh, man, nothing like a Necrogoblicon to do a cover of System of a Down, Chop Suey, to get me into a happy Halloween mode. So, Halloween's coming up. This is the month of boogity, so that's a new Necrogoblicon. Canna Talk ND with Wilson. We've made it. We've got to the end every Thursday, 4 to 5. Right before or right after Side Stage with Trav. Every Thursday we talk about cannabis legalization, and the benefits of it. We've kind of wrapped her up. It was an interesting angle, but I'm right. The celebrity, money-driven ideas have always been kind of stuck up in L.A., but now it's kind of been, COVID's pushed it out. So we're going to benefit from that. Keep educating yourself on cannabis and the benefits of it. Look into it even for just general aches and pains. It really does help. Your range of motion, it'll come through for you. Canna Talk ND with Wilson. Canna Talk ND on YouTube. Canna Heads on Sunday. ND for Freedom of Cannabis. RadioFreeFargo.org. You can listen to archives there. Go there and donate. Otherwise, this is 95.9 LPFM KRFF Moorhead, Fargo, the best radio station in the world as far as I'm concerned. And so I bid you adieu. All next Thursday, I'm coming at you. It's David Allen, Judgment Day of the Canna Talk ND with Wilson. Later.